A third assassination attempt against Donald Trump has been foiled. This time it was the turn of California to stop the bad people. The suspect, 49-year-old Vem Miller, was stopped at a checkpoint ahead of the ex-president's rally on Saturday. He was found to be in possession of fake VIP credentials, a loaded shotgun, handgun, a high-capacity magazine. Let's speak to the managing editor, Inside Sources, Michael Graham, who's with us. Good afternoon, Michael.
So I have to say that it doesn't look like that was an assassination attempt based on the latest reporting. It looks like it was just a nut who didn't realize you couldn't have guns with him, which is part of the American culture. But I have to say, as an American, listening to you and your callers talk about the burden of reparations for slavery is just astonishing for us on this side of the pond, because what nation led the fight to end the slave trade around the globe? What nation spent money and sent soldiers to stop the slave trade, who tried to choke the slave trade in the United States, who forced the U.S.'s model to be that slaves were born in the U.S. and then sold here? It was Great Britain. I mean, Great Britain more than any other country to end the slave trade. And for Americans, and by the way, we're having the same fight over here today. It's Columbus Day or Indigenous Persons Day, depending on who you are. Vice President Kamala Harris supports Indigenous Persons Day because evil, Europeans, were evil, mean-spirited, awful people who had disease and practiced slavery, as opposed to the people who were already in America who practiced slavery, had mass ritual, executions for religious services, and ate each other. So somehow one side is better than I don't know. But we're literally in that conversation today as people say, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys based on race? And to hear that Great Britain is getting caught up on this is just, I got to tell you, I'm stunned.
Yeah, I mean, it comes up every time, Mark. You're absolutely right to point that out. And lots of our callers this afternoon have said, hang on a second, whoa, William Wilberforce, let's talk about this. This is how it ended, right? But of course, people are very selective on where they find an injustice. I mean, if these people never read the Bible, for goodness sake, or any other religious book, where you'll find all manner of horrendous injustices, even plagues, that locusts.
So let me share this. So in the U.S., Vice President Harris and members of her wing of the party practice something called land acknowledgments. Before you start a campaign rally or whatever, someone comes out and goes, we acknowledge this was the land of the Wabanakis and it was blah, blah, blah. And the premise is this is stolen land taken by evil Europeans. How would you even do a land acknowledgement in Great Britain? Where do you start?
Yes.
You start with the Britons, you then go to the Romans, then go to the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, the Danes. I mean, it's just sheer idiocy. And every time
do you know what?
I'm at one...
I'm so glad, Michael, you brought up the Danes, this wonderful progressive country that is meant to be forward-thinking. They've got a great harmonious life, a lovely taxation system. These swines were subjugating my people.
They were.
And I've got a feeling, my history might be off here. I've got a feeling the Danes were in Ireland before the English
did visit Ireland. In
there.
fact, around between 800 and 1000 AD, some of the most coveted slaves across northern Africa and southern Europe were the Irish. The Irish were rounded up for slavery and sent off to work in the what was then Islamist countries of southern Europe and northern Africa. So that's my point, is what the heck are you talking about? I also want to say something about the word reparations. Reparations means I restore you to the condition you would be in if the wrong hadn't occurred. We have a car accident. I have to make your car like it would have been if the intersection had all been good. What person of African descent in the West today, America or the UK, wants to live in the condition they would have lived in if the evil of slavery hadn't happened? Look, slavery was a horrific crime against your great-great-grandparents. It was awful. It was unspeakable. No defense. It would have been a better world if it hadn't happened. But the fact is that 4 generations later, if you want to compare your relative who was not taken into slavery in, Chad or, whatever, their life is much worse than your life is today. The horrors that your parents and grandparents or great-grandparents, whatever, went through have resulted in a much better life for you. You don't want reparations. Reparations means you'd be living the economic status of somebody who lives off $500 a year. So this is why it's so frustrating. Slavery was evil, but the net outcome for people 4 generations later is not evil. It's you get to be part of the West, and you're an open part of the West. You're not you were a subjugated part of the West 2 generations ago. My father grew up in the rural South in South Carolina in the 1950s, where there was Jim Crow. That was terrible, but that's not now. Yeah. Embrace the now. Your life is so good compared to the lives of most humans of every color, Michael, everywhere.
You see, I'm with you all the way. Apart from the Danish people, I can't get over that. Now you've raised it. Sitting there with their long blonde hair and their blue eyes.
Exactly.
Look at us looking all Danish and decent. No, I'm not having this.
You were subjugated. It was terrible what they did to the Saxons. It was awful.
My family are from the southeast, so when the Romans arrived, I mean, we got it. We were hit as bad as you could. You know, every village, every town, and obviously, it might surprise you to know there's no one left in my family that remembers that. But the fact is, I mean, I don't know where do we stop with this, because you know
I would go straight to Italy and demand reparations. I mean, what the heck, you know?
My great-granddad times 2000 was fed to lions in an amphitheatre as a Christian. There you go. Doesn't get any worse than that.
Once again, I'm happy to jump on this bandwagon if we're all going to get on the same bandwagon together, but it's clearly not that. And this is one of the things that is hurting Kamala Harris in her race for election in the U.S. is that there are more and more voters who are people of color, Hispanic and Black. They're younger. They don't remember the fight that their grandparents had when my dad was a kid in the South. They don't remember those fights. What they know is, I'm a 28-year-old guy. I want a job. I go to a work site. I'm competing with illegal immigrants who were allowed to come in here under the Harris-Biden administration. My wages are net lower. There's no reason for this. And when I complain, I'm told, well, we have to have these illegal immigrants because there aren't Americans to do the jobs. And these are young American men of Hispanic and Black descent saying, I'm willing to do the job. I'm just not willing to work for the sub-Rosa wage that you're paying these people who are here illegally. I'm not willing to underprice myself because you've chosen to break the law and flood low-skilled jobs or entry-level jobs with illegal immigrants. And so, obviously, Vice President Harris is going to win a majority of the Black vote. She's going to win probably a majority of the Hispanic vote. But the way Democrats win elections is they lose the white vote and then overwhelmingly make it up. It's typical for a Democratic candidate for president to win more than 90% of the Black vote. If Kamala Harris's number drops to 85, 84, 82, particularly in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, it's going to be very, very tough for her to be the next president of the United States.
Which is why I say thank goodness for Saturday Night Live, who are still knocking it out the park on a regular basis. Let's have a little look at when Kamala and Joe turned up on the show. Here it is.
100 people surveyed, top 6 answers on the board. Name something that you keep in your glove compartment. Oh, VP Harris.
Steve, look, I was raised in a middle-class family, all right?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, my mother raised my sister and me, all right? Yeah. She worked hard and saved up.
Yeah,
And we had a second mother, too.
Okay. Did that mother have a glove compartment?
A small business owner named Miss Shelton.
Okay, we got that. Something that you keep in your glove compartment.
Oh, a Glock, Steve. A big old Glock.
Oh, snap.
Sorry, that was the other clip. That was the Trump-Kamala Harris Family Feud clip.
Fine.
But hey, it doesn't matter which one. Always worth a look, wouldn't you say, Michael?
Well, I mean, so one of the things that's frustrating a lot of people on the right is, where were these sketches 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago? Joe Biden didn't suddenly just become a guy who's too old to be president last Thursday. And Dana Carvey is killing it. I hope you show that clip. Dana Carvey as Joe Biden, one of the best bits SNL has ever done. And Kamala Harris didn't just become a ditzy, I don't know what to say, I'll repeat myself person, when she became the nominee. And so that's what people are saying is, where the heck were these bits? And the answer is, we didn't want to look, we know what who butters our toast, I don't know if it's a British phrase, but, we got to keep our lefties happy, and that's where it was. And so people are really enjoying actual comedy. Comedy is allowed. Please, more of it.
Yeah, particularly around Denmark. I think that's where we really need some lampooning.
You know, you can mock the Danes all you want, but there's a reason why they came to Great Britain. Because have you tried living in Northern Europe? Yikes. The weather's terrible. There's no arable land. You got to eat fish every meal. Then they have crap foods like lutefisk. Have you ever seen lutefisk?
Yes.
They soak fish in lye. And then they rinse it off and want you to eat it. I'm like, guys, lye is what you use to clean the kitchen after you cook, not what you use for the food when you cook. So if I had to eat lye fish and live in the freaking freezing cold, I would definitely come down and kick some Saxon butt.
Those people are animals. That's what I'm saying. I can just about get away with that. Listen, Michael, always a pleasure. Thank you. We will speak again soon. Michael Graham, managing editor of Inside Sources, a US political commentator on Capitol Hill, is our man.